Hey YouTubers, Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. World Economic Forum has a question for Canada and its economy, and it's a really, really good one. I'm just chilling out here in the office. It's Friday night. I got my boy down at the shop there, taking care of business for me. So I decided to take this Friday evening off and get some work done around the house and getting a couple of things here and there squared away. But just chilling out, listening to my boy Slick Rick. So if you haven't heard him, check him out. He's really good. Anyways, look at this. World Economic Forum questions Canada income equality and economic sustainability. So this is what I've been talking about, the cost of living and the standard of living. And remember the whole GDP thing, bringing up the GDP and the gross domestic product output. And what is GDP? Okay, let me tell you this is what I remember from school. Gross domestic product, it measures the country's economy, basically. What else do I remember? Why do I remember this? GDP is a total value of everything produced by the country within its borders. It doesn't matter who, if it's Canadians or foreign workers or whatever. But they must be in the country, right? And it counts for the production and then the government counts their production through GDP. GDP, there's a mathematical formula for it. It is, see if I remember how this goes. It's personal consumption, expenditures, and then there's business investment, which is plus government spending, okay? So you're going to take, how does it go again? Personal consumption, expenditures, and then plus government spending, plus exports, minus imports. That's how you do it. It's been so long since I've looked into that. It's just a raw measurement. GDP is just a raw measurement, and it includes prices increase. There's a Bureau of Economic Analysis that looks into it and tells you, it concords things with inflation and blah, 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 and it goes on and on. So it's basically stuff that's made within the country and stuff that's produced minus plus government expenditures, and then, yeah, so you know how it goes. Anyways, let's go back here real quick. So if you've been suspicious that wealth equality is getting worse in Canada, you're right. World Economic Forum, WEF, not WWF, WEF researchers have been trying to figure out why countries are seeing their gross domestic product, GDP, rise, but more people are claiming things are getting worse. These researchers finally figured out that GDP is a crappy way to measure the success of an economy. Instead of relying on GDP, they created a new index for measuring inclusiveness. Canada might be booming in terms of GDP, but we're one of the least inclusive advanced economies in the world. So remember, guys, how the gross domestic product works. It's very important that you guys know this. So it's basically personal consumption expenditures, okay, plus business investment, plus government spending, plus exports, minus imports, and that gives you your GDP. That's how I remember it now. It's coming to me now. The GDP growth rate, I think it is the percentage in GDP from quarter. Yeah, it's recorded quarterly from what I remember, and I think they've been recording it since the last Great Depression, since I think 1929. Yeah. I'm just trying to remember. And what does GDP tell you about the economy? From what I remember, GDP, it's just a tool to compare, right? It's nothing super serious. It's the growth rate measure, and if the economy is growing or not. So, you know, and then the ideal growth is between 2 to 3%. And how does GDP affect you? It affects you through job growth, and your investments, and it also affects your personal finances. So anyways, I should do a refresher on GDP. I should bring up something that I could just easily read and just kind of bring it out for you guys. I'm just trying to fly off the top of my head. Teleprompter free! So let's go back here. GDP, we're the last inclusive economics in the world. So let's go back here. They created an index measuring inclusiveness. Canada might be booming in terms of GDP, but one of the last inclusive advanced economies in the world. The Inclusive Development Index is a better way to measure social progress. WEF researchers feel that GDP is still an important factor to measure. Like I said, it's good. It's good. You want the GDP to go up, always, right? But not the only one. A few grocery oligarchs are making mad dough. Doesn't mean everyone is in a booming economy. Instead, guessing how wealth is being distributed, WEF, designing you index the Inclusive Development Index. Now, this looks really good, actually, guys. I looked at it earlier. The IDI is not a replacement for measuring GDP growth, but WEF considers it an alternative. GDP should be used to measure the top-line performance, giving a broad measure of the country's macroeconomic success. Sorry, guys. IDI should be used to measure bottom-line performance, which it has that wealth is reaching people as a gap between GDP and IDI ranks increase. So does wealth inequality. If you're at the top half of the wealth inequality, you probably don't care. But the healthy lower half, who buys the SHIT that keeps you rich, so smarten the F up. Canada ranks at the bottom for economic inclusiveness. WF researcher actually ranked Canada in the bottom 5th of advanced economies. When measured by IDI, Canada comes in number 17 out of 20, a couple of spots below Czech Republic, Republika Czeka, and a couple of spots above Slovenia, probably not where most people would have placed it. If they had a list they had to rank, researchers noted Canada's lagging behind or inclusion. But the country is stable. Thanks to our housing, of course. That's not so hot. That's not so hot rank becomes even worse when WEF researcher compares GDP to IDI. The closer gap between GDP and IDI means the economy is very inclusive. The larger the gap, the worse the inclusion. Canada ranked 17 for the gap, placing U.S. amongst the bottom 20%. Placing us, not U.S., sorry. But 20% of advanced economies for economic inclusiveness. If that was too technical, it means Canada is making a mad amount of cash, but most people aren't benefiting for it. Of course they're not. So there's the difference in rank right here. Explains to you. I'm going to leave a link for this so you guys understand. I'm going to leave this link for you guys because you guys can see this chart. Norway and Iceland is first and second. I'm very surprised Iceland is not in first, because Iceland basically left the EU, told England where to go because England was going to make Iceland pay off England's debt, and they said no. And Iceland put all the banksters in jail, and Iceland's economy is just booming. The GDP is booming. Iceland is definitely a place I'm going to visit real soon and check it out. It's definitely a country that has huge when it comes to independence, when it comes to their voice. And Iceland, I'm very proud of Iceland. I made a documentary in Portuguese discussing this many years back. And I'm very, very happy for Iceland, and I'm proud of Iceland for that. So hats off to Iceland. So Norway's in first, Norwega, then Iceland, then Luxembourg, Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands. Ireland's up there too, eh? And then Australia, then Finland, Germany, Belgium, Republika Czeka, Korea, Republic, then Canada. And my buddies, Portugal, is down here. So they're still in the top 25, which is good for countries like, Singapore's up there too. Greece is getting up there too. When it comes to, a lot of these countries are still in rebuild mode because of the destruction of the euro, the European Union. So which area is Canada doing well in? None, unfortunately. Canada isn't in the top 20% of advanced economy. 5-year trend for IDE. We did land in the top 40 advanced economies for life expectancy, net income, poverty reduction, and median incomes. The report wasn't all bad. We're just the kind of return we should be getting for wealth in this country. So that's it right there. So there's Norway in first. So this is a really intricate graph. It goes from growth and development here, and it tells you the percentage employed, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes to inclusion, wealth, median income. Then it goes to international equity and subsidy. Sorry, I'm just intergenerational. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I'm seeing through the phone and I can't read. Equity and stability. So that's what it is right there. So it's not good for Canada when it should be one of the richest countries in the world. Where is the richness going? So this is the article here. Did Canada do pretty good? Did Canada do pretty good? Who cares? Because everyone's still poor. Let's go to here. Canada's doing terrible in these areas. Canada scored in the fourth quintile or the bottom 40% of advanced economies in the other 5 categories. Low marks were given for the employment trend, adjusted net savings, carbon intensity, public debt, and remember everyone's in debt here, and dependency ratio. These are big ones and are most self-explanatory except dependency ratio. The development ratio is the ratio of people to young to old to work versus the number of people that are not in the workforce. The more pressure is placed on those that are in the workforce, especially of those, the area of taxes. Of course, you're taxing your labor, which is probably illegal too. The higher the rate of taxes, the less free income to push the economy forward and less money to push the real estate higher. This is an important indicator that we're breaking out on another day. But the point of the WEF gives us a low score here. Canada has been becoming suspicious that this economy has left behind many people. Of course it has. Unfortunately, the government hasn't noticed these issues because we're measuring the wrong thing. We can't improve what we can't measure, and that quietly eroded the economy. So, no, you're not crazy if you think things are getting worse economically. One largest economic research organization finally gave data points to confirm it. So, like I said, GDP needs to go up. It needs to go up. There's other ways to focus that. I'm seeing this more of Reaganomics, trickle down. The rich get rich, and then the money gets trickled down from the rich down to the poor. So the rich would pay their employees, right? And then the money gets spent back into the thing. But that's not what's happening with wage cuts, hours cut, people being sent to part-time labor, no factories. We're green, and we have this thing, and we have this carbon tax we need to pay. Did you watch my last video I posted in Rants and Lifestyle? I read my gas bill to you guys, like $450 to heat my house for a month. So let me know what you guys think. What is happening? Obviously, this is not good. Sorry about my poor reading skills tonight. It's Friday night, and I think I'm going to go out for a bit. I'm going to head out to the store. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below.